Corbin Burnes of the Milwaukee Brewers is off to a record-breaking 2021 season, recording 40 Ks and issuing no walks over his first 4 starts. But to say that this is night and day from just 2 seasons ago is an understatement. Back in 2019, he registered an 8.82 ERA, marking this as one of the worst seasons by a major league starter who has thrown over 40 innings in a season. But we're not looking at the same player anymore. Last year, Burnes finished 6th in voting for the Cy Young Award. If you're like me, you're probably thinking to yourself, what has changed to allow Burnes to see the success he's seeing on the field, compared to that 2019 season? And in today's video, we're going to answer just that. But before we jump into it, guys, if you enjoy the content you're seeing on this channel and you want to continue to see more of it, it'd mean a lot if you'd click that subscribe button. I'm a numbers guy, and only about 30% of the people who watch these videos are actually subscribed, so show your support by clicking the subscribe button down below. To begin, let's take a look at Burnes' pitch arsenal, starting with each pitch's velocity and percent usage. The pitch he threw the most in 2019 was his 4-seam fastball. He threw this pitch nearly 53% of the time, at 95 miles an hour. His go-to secondary pitch was his slider, which came in at a hard 88 miles an hour, used 31% of the time. And that right there makes up nearly 85% of the pitches he threw, which doesn't leave much room for his next 2 pitches. His curveball, thrown at 82 miles an hour, was thrown only 8% of the time, and his changeup, at 91 miles an hour, was thrown 4% of the time. Nothing here looks that out of the ordinary, but when you dive deeper into the numbers, you'll realize where Burnes was getting burned, and that was on his 4-seam fastball. This pitch recorded a run value of 24, which was the worst in the league that year, as well as an opponent batting average against of above 400 and a WOBA of nearly 600. So the pitch he threw most of the time was literally the worst pitch in the entire majors among qualified pitchers. So what changes did he make to have such electric results in 2020 and 2021? To begin with, he did what anybody would have done after seeing this information. He stopped throwing the 4-seam. He replaced this pitch with a cutter, which is absolutely nasty. So far in the year, he's thrown this pitch 50.4% of the time, and the opposing batters have only collected a single hit off the pitch. Then of course, we still have the slider. His usage percentage on this pitch is slightly down, and he has primarily only thrown this pitch versus righties this season. The curveball has been thrown at a nearly identical rate in velocity, and the changeup is pretty similar in velocity as well. His usage percentage, however, is slightly up, and he solely throws this pitch to lefties. And if you're doing the math, we did leave some room in there for one more pitch. That's because he didn't just ditch the 4-seam for a cutter, he also started throwing a sinker more often. A pitch with a solid amount of horizontal break, thrown on average at 97 miles an hour. Speaking of pitch movement, let's take a look at the movement differences between these 2 seasons. Here's Burnes' charts from 2019. And here is an overlay of this past season. As you can tell, the slider, curveball, and changeup movement profiles remain nearly identical across these years. But the big difference is going to be abandoning the old 4-seam fastball for the new and improved cutter-sinker combo. To recap what we've covered here, Burnes' arsenal changes weren't due to an increased velocity jump, usage swap, or major movement profile changes to his secondary stuff. There was an analysis of what pitch was being hit hard, and he stopped throwing that pitch. In its place, Burnes added a new and improved cutter and a sinker. But can that be it? From one of the worst MLB seasons ever to a legitimate Cy Young candidate? Let's keep digging. Since the start of the 2020 season, Burnes has recorded the best ERA and FIP of all starting pitchers. His strikeout percentage is 3rd best in the league, and his home run rate per 9 is tied for 2nd best. And of course this year, his walk percentage registers him in the top 2% of starting pitchers. If you take a look at Baseball Savant's percentile rankings for him, you'll notice that he ranks among the top in nearly every category. It's crazy to think that someone with these kind of numbers registered an 8.82 ERA during his age 24 season just 2 years ago. I have to give major props to Burnes for putting in the work and the Brewers organization for seeing the potential in this individual. There's a lot more that went into this, but from a development standpoint, seeing indicators like his velocity and spin rate on each his fastball and his curveball ranking among the top of the league shows me that he should be able to find a way to see some success in the league. This is a fantastic example of seeing someone who has the tools to succeed in this game, seeing something in the data and making a change. It's awesome that the Brewers were able to look past a single year's poor performance and stick with a guy who has now turned his career around for good. The main takeaways from this quick video are that in order to be great, you can't always look at the results. Before all of this technology, the 2019 season that Burnes recorded could have been the end of his career. But being able to incorporate data into the development and analyzation of your player's talents has allowed people like Burnes, who is incredibly talented, to find the missing piece of the puzzle to inch closer to his ceiling. It's incredibly important for you all, when you're analyzing any of your players' performance, to not just focus on what they're doing well, but to also see where they may be getting burned. You don't see a lot of people out there completely changing their fastball movement profiles in order to find success, so it's cool to see Burnes off to such a hot start this season. I'm looking forward to following his continued success throughout the rest of the year. Thanks for tuning in to today's video, guys. If you enjoyed, please hit that subscribe button. If you want to keep learning more, here's a video and a playlist that I think you'd enjoy checking out. I'll catch you in the next one.